You're welcome back. Now, I want us to talk about something. First, let me state that these are unconfirmed reports, as in JoyNews has not independently confirmed these reports, but they are reports coming from various other media houses of massive layoffs. Now, there are a number of them involving different organizations. And first of all, Consolidated Bank, we're expecting that they are looking at laying off a number of workers. They reported 1,700 workers to be laid off. There are others, but we won't touch on those. Let's stick with what is to come from Consolidated Bank. Norvan joins us from the Joy Business team. And this is something that has been on my mind, Norvan. By the way, good morning. Thanks for coming. It's been on my mind all weekend, and of course, we've been concerned about the effect of 1,700 souls finding themselves at home without a job. Let's look at the reality of it. This new bank, Consolidated Bank, made it clear from the beginning that there would be an assessment of those they are taking on as staff from the 5 defunct banks, and that the assessment will result in decisions about how many jobs will be kept and how many will be lost. We all expected some to be lost, but 1,700. Looking at the scale of things, the size of the banks that were purchased and assumed, is that figure just about right, or is it more or less than you would have expected?
I think that with the numbers, I wouldn't want us to play a lot around it, but this was to be expected. Could you remember that when these issues started, I did indicate to you that if you have 3 of the banks concentrated at one place, obviously the new bank would not want to have 3 branches all concentrated in a location. Definitely, they would close down some of the branches and leave probably just one over there, depending on the volume of transactions that takes place around those places. So this was to be expected, and so for them to want to lay off, if indeed it's true, 1,700, well, we knew that we would definitely get to this point.
Yeah. Now, the layoffs are supposed to begin today. Have we got any kind of indication of what's happening out there? How has this day started for 1,700 people, and more importantly for those who are lucky enough to retain their jobs?
Well, let's make some corrections here. You remember the 700 contract staff? Their contract was terminated. They had 2 weeks within which to go through the clearance process that had been put in place for them to go. These are the people that, as of today, right, they will be exiting. The 60 days we've been counting, and you recall that last week they were all given the right to reapply, but if you did not reapply, then automatically you are ready to exit. So, I mean, I think that as the week goes by, we will be able to get the fine numbers or the fine details as to what are the numbers, who are those who did not reapply, which means that voluntarily those people would like to exit,
right, and
those who have reapplied, what sort of processes they're going to go through, and would they be the exact number the bank needs, or the bank would just take a few and allow the rest to go. That is what we'll be following to bring to our viewers what the real details are.
Now, to be the ripple effect on the economy. I know it's a relatively small number, but this is just another of people who are going to be added to our unemployment figures. What's the state of unemployment today in Ghana, and how much worse will this make it?
I mean, Kojo, if you had even one dependent, I mean, as a person, so let's say you just had a wife or just a sister or just a mother that you were taking care of, it means that if 1,700 people go home, how many people are going to be affected? Let's just say each of them had just one person. Another 1,700, so that gives you what? 3,400. So you multiply and multiply, and you see the rippling effect and the number of people who will be affected. Granted, this 1,700 people are supposed to go home, and this is just people who are going out of Consolidated Bank. The whole banking crisis has had serious rippling effects on the economy and has affected other sectors as well. Talk of insurance, talk of the service sector, talk of, all other sectors of the economy. I'm sure that you've been reading the number of companies that are asking people to go home. Now let's even look at the service sector. Those who are providing support services to these banks. So internet service, security service, checkbooks, printing and all that. So imagine that there's a company that was, providing internet solution to 3 of these banks. And in view of that, they had a particular number of staff. And because of this banking crisis, they get their contract terminated. Obviously, what would the company do? They're going to take a hit on their revenue, and any good company will sit and then look at the numbers and decide that some people will have to go home. Because if we don't have this contract anymore, we cannot keep this number of people with us. So some people will have to go home. So obviously, you see the those who provide food to these banks. It's enormous as far as this crisis is concerned. So I'm not surprised that you are seeing a lot of companies within the economy who have probably been hit by this, deciding that their people, their staff, some staff of theirs will have to be laid off or will have to be asked to go home for now. These are the things that you see when you have such crisis at hand.
Right. What's the plan for our business team? How are you planning to cover this story, which obviously will continue to evolve?
Obviously, Kojo, last week, that was when we started. We did some numbers because we had some of the companies, especially those from the service sector, some of the challenges that they have been facing. We are still following these stories, trying to, unravel the various links to this whole crisis and how pursue the policy, decision makers themselves as to what are the measures they are putting in place to mitigate, the direct impact on this economy. Don't forget that as the number of people who are supposed to be going home increase, it adds up to the unemployment in the country. So if a government has a vision or policy makers have the vision to kind of make sure they reduce the unemployment numbers in this country, and this is what is happening, then it comes back to zero. You've done nothing. And so we're hoping that as we highlight these major issues, the policymakers themselves will be able to immediately come forth with some measures that they are taking to resolve what is at hand. Don't forget that we've been told that high unemployment rates can be, national security issues, and you need to look at it.
When it comes to business news, Norvan is the man with the plan. Thank you so much for bringing us that analysis of the current situation with the staff being laid off in Consolidated Bank. There's more to come on the AM show. Stay with us. We're back after these.